positions or narratives even, like clear, unequivocal democracy, remote, pro-democracy, unified, pro-libertarianism,
reverse schizophrenic.
Yeah, perfect. I feel like these should be the questions we're asking about our own country right now. Because it sure as hell think everybody in the Arab world is kind of thinking about that in regards to our country. Why aren't Americans asking us these questions?
It's we're the best country on the face of the earth. We don't have to ask that question, but it's going to be asked very soon. Believe me.
Well, the mechanisms of control are a lot different and a lot more sophisticated here than in the Arab world.
It seems like they use some simple tools like Twitter to suddenly release all this information, but I feel like it doesn't quite work so easily in these countries.
No, it doesn't.
Because we don't seem to be able to celebrate, we just seem to have celebrity. I'm not sure. I think it's going to take some new tools to release these ideas, but I don't know what they are.
It comes from the culture. It comes through all the art and all the experimental stuff that people are doing all over America, all having difficulty to survive in a country that does not support the arts and kind of artistic experiment. Because I remember the early 50s, you know, and there was no culture events. They didn't get away with the House Un-American Activities Committee and made everybody shut up. The group that I was with was doing revolutionary plays in the early 50s, and all of a sudden the word on the street was quiet. And they had to be quiet.
This is the living theater.
They went underground, and they found classic plays that said the same thing that they were going to say in some new original crazy thing. And until that era ended, then people went back to the experiment. But after World War II, that experiment was really happening, and then the Red Scare shut it up. And then came the beginning of, you know, Allen Ginsberg's Howl, Rosa Parks sitting in the front of the bus, and thousands of other things that created this culture that still is with us, but they've done a great job on trashing it.
Personally, though, I don't think that, you know, anarchist plays or situationist plays even affected Rosa Parks to do what she did.
I'm not saying that.
I think it's important that we're meeting here in the circle now. But I think another thing to think about right now is like, I heard a statistic, I don't know if it's real, you never do these days, but like 60 to 70% of African American males in New York City between 18 and 24 are unemployed.
Yeah.
And how are people like us reaching them? You know, I feel like we're kind of closed up in this room. I'm curious if anyone has any ideas of how to reach out to us.
Yeah. Follow up on your point. Solution. I mean, a big problem, I think the question we're asking is to touch on your topic of xenophobia and kind of your topic of culture and kind of the general question of why we're not having universal protest or some sort of solidarity. And I think it has to do really clearly with the atomization of ourselves from each other's, from our culture, or some sort of commonality. I mean, we're not caring about African American employees or workers in Wisconsin because, quite frankly, who gives a fuck? Our own life isn't important. We're in that maybe pre-Hitler era feeling. I wouldn't say pre-Hitler era, then I would say the attitude of like, well, I'm not Jewish. It's not going to affect me. I'm just some Catholic guy. And eventually, they get you anyway. So we need to find our love, I guess. And I hate to be cheesy and use such like boring terms, but let's go into Rousseau. But and I don't want to paraphrase the quote well. I can't. But as long as we don't love each other, tyrants can do whatever the hell they want. As long as we don't give a damn what the other person or in our own life or such and such, we'll never do anything for anybody else. And we have to figure out how to get that going. I don't know. So.
Well, that's the thing about love is like it's a word they try to damage because it has really deep meaning. Because when you know, used to be this IWW thing where somebody's in prison, he says, I'm in here for you, and you should be out there for me. There was a lot of, during those great organizing campaigns, they just took everybody to prison. Anarchism is about love because it's about being non-hierarchical and it's about not dominating. You take away hierarchy and domination, you can't imagine how much love just kind of shows up because people are acting differently together. You know, and I noticed this, you know, whether I was in Paris in May '68 during this was, where the people took over the country, the government left. It was an extraordinary moment, you know, people giving free food out in the streets. You could, you know, but then of course what happened is that the communists, the socialists, the Christian Democrats and the Social Democrats went, this is too far out. And they formed this government and so, you know. But that's, we know what happens historically. I've been around the hip-hop scene since the very beginning. And I notice, especially now, there is so much great work in poetry and hip-hop that's come out these last years after it started with great stuff that went through gangster shit, but the stuff that's happening now is speaking to the black community and to the white community about what you're talking about. They're coming in clear as a bell. You won't hear it on the radio, you won't hear it on the TV, because you won't hear anything that's really real in any of those places. 90% of everything out there is bullshit. Movies, music, radio. It's that 10% that we know is real, because that 10% has been handed down and handed down and handed down. So this thing about love, it's a very deep word, but love is action. Love is continuous action.
Yeah, I'm not sure that anarchism requires love, but I'm pretty sure that it requires respect. And getting back to what you were saying about people being selfish, I think that is the reason that nothing's happening in this country. Because as Gene Sharp actually says, what makes a revolution, really a successful revolution, is when people give up their fear of the oppressor. It's when people are ready to stand up against